Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. Have you ever been turned down for a pay increase or not received a bonus that you were promised? Have you ever been in a position where your supervisor or manager or HR department has lied to you? Firstly, one of the reasons that I've been vlogging about how busy I've been this last summer is because I have been trying to achieve all of the goals that I set for myself this past summer in order to prove myself and prove my worth and value as an employee to my superiors. Now I have 3 superiors. One is the comptroller, one is the finance director, and one is the executive director. I report, generally speaking, to the comptroller, who, when I first started there, had been promoted to comptroller. She's the one who had my position, and that's why my position was vacant. And my position remained vacant for a year before they found someone, me, to fill the position. They had hired someone after a couple of months, but that person worked a couple of weeks and then left because the job is very complex. The executive director who had previously promoted the comptroller has since resigned. And so now the comptroller is in this position that the prior executive director created for her. And I'm in her old position. And we've also created a new position of finance director. And I know that my boss was very nervous when the finance director was hired because she thought her job was in danger because it had been a brand new, newly created position for her under the former executive director. I hope I'm not confusing the heck out of you. I just want to give you a little bit of the dynamic and background. So the finance director for me was hired in 2024. And the executive director were brand new in 2024. So just giving you a little background as far as, and then my comptroller, she has been with the organization for about 10 years, just under 10 years. So the prior executive director did performance reviews, but she did them in January, and our fiscal year end and our budget and everything ends September 30th. So the performance reviews that she did were not necessarily tied to any bonus or pay increase. So it was very odd that she did it that way. And under that former executive director, I never got a performance review. I was hired in 2022. And by 2024, when she resigned and left, I still hadn't had a performance review, which I didn't really worry about at the time because this job was really complex and difficult to learn. And I wanted to give myself, at least, to be on the generous side, a year to learn the job. And once I felt like I had learned the job, then could take over the job, it would take time for me to prove myself. So the first 2 years, I really wasn't expecting a performance review or any sort of banner pay increase or bonus or anything like that. Now, coming into this position, as I mentioned, I wanted to, 1, give myself plenty of time to learn the job. Number 2, plenty of time to prove myself. But then in year 3, in 2024, there was this new executive director, new finance director, and I was starting over from scratch with 2 executives, even though my comptroller was not new. She had told me very early on that she all of a sudden was not a decision maker and did not have any input in pay increases, bonuses, anything like that. So when I got my first performance review, which wasn't even a full year of having the new executive director and finance director, I was very open and discussed with my boss, the comptroller, a lot of stuff in our meeting, the 4 of us, about things that I feel like I need to work on, things that I feel like I do well, and things that, like, goals I had for myself in this somewhat new job, having only been there for 2 years. And they came back with, you've done great. And I think I scored on that performance review right around, on a scale of 1 to 5, I think I scored like around a 3.8 or something like that. So above average. And I think I got what I would consider a decent bonus, but I can't tell you all of the circumstances surrounding what happened with the bonus in my performance review at that time. There was a lot of stuff that happened in October of 2024, exactly a year ago, with my bonus and performance review. That wasn't all wonderful. But generally speaking, though, I got a good, positive result on my performance review. And then when I got the printed signed version back from my executive director, there were very specific goals for me on there, which we had talked about and I agreed to. And a lot of the goals were related to when we get really busy in the summer season. And so this past summer, I was not only working extremely hard because it's busy, I was also working extremely hard to make sure I achieved all my goals, which directly affect my superiors, like deposits and collections and accuracy in payroll and things like that. I also had a couple extra billing cycles that I had to do because, as you know, I do accounts receivable, payroll, things like that, bookkeeping. And I don't have a private office. I have not only a shared workspace with 2 other people. In accounting, when you're trying to calculate and figure and do numbers and stuff like that with accuracy, it is an office that's right up front by our reception area. So in season, when it's busy and loud, there can be up to 30 people in our lobby. And even though we have a door that we can close on our shared office, our office has windows, so it's completely wide open and loud, and there's no insulation, there's no privacy. It is a very challenging work layout, just literally and physically. So I was not only busy because it's in season and it's naturally busier, but I also am trying to achieve these goals of accuracy and everything like that and stay on top of deadlines and things like that, which I have not been able to do since I started that job. This year, I wanted to prove myself. But we also had a couple unexpected billings that we had to take care of, which not only were new, by virtue of being new, our customers were very confused because they didn't know what it was. And we have like 1,000 customers. So, and one person, me, to answer all of their questions and inquiries and emails and phone calls. Meanwhile, I'm trying to do my regular work and I'm getting employees, 160 to 200 employees that are constantly interrupting me with questions about their payroll and pay rates and W-4s and because I'm onboarding all of these employees. We have about 40 year-round employees, and then we have like almost 200 in summer busy season. So in a very short window of time, I have to onboard all of these new employees, and it is extremely busy. It is very difficult to do my job, but I not only wore myself out, as you know by my past few vlogs, I was able to successfully wrap up our organization's fiscal year without one single payroll error. That's 365 days, 200 plus employees. That's unheard of. I know that is very hard to do. No matter how accurate you are, no matter how hard of a worker you are, no matter how good at accounting you are, errors are still going to happen because we're human. I somehow, some way, made it through the entire fiscal 2025 without one single payroll error. Meanwhile, there's all this other stuff, the extra billing and the interruptions and the shared office and stuff like that. I was so proud of myself, and I am proud of myself. But I did this for a reason, because I knew that in October 2025, I was going to be getting my fiscal 25 performance evaluation. And when I did my self-evaluation, which is the origin of our whole performance evaluation, we do a self-evaluation, then we meet with all of our superiors. We go over, we have a final where they email it to us after we've all talked. We sign off on it or give additional feedback to be amended. And then our pay rate goes into effect. Meanwhile, they're working on budgets and stuff. So I went into my performance review with all three of my superiors, these three that I was telling you about, and I was very confident. And I scored myself 4s and 5s on everything except one item, and that was technology. I'm not a tech guru, but I know enough and I'm intelligent enough about technology to be able to do the duties of my job. But I also don't feel tech savvy. Like if someone said you need to buy your own printer and connect everything and set it all up and download, the whatever that you do to set the printer up, connect it to your computer, I would not be able to do that. I just wouldn't. But my point being is that I'm not high maintenance as far as technology goes, but at the same time, I don't know a whole lot. I'm not a tech guru. So that's why I scored myself a 3, because that category on a scale of 1 to 5 is defined as meets requirement for the job. And I felt that that's the only area where I scored a 3 on. Like everything else, I went above and beyond in the last year. And when we sat down to go through my performance review, all 3 of my managers agreed with me. And when they gave me the printed version to sign off on, there was no constructive feedback, no goals, nothing. It says, Anne's a phenomenal employee. She's really courteous. She's friendly. She's warm, especially with collections. It's a benefit to have in that position. She's accurate, blah, 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 blah. I mean, it just was a raving review and I was so pleased. And when I got my bonus, I got less than some of the directors and managers, but they have direct reports and I don't. I don't have a staff. They have to attend meetings and do conference calls and stuff outside of business hours, and I don't. So there's a few things, like they get contacted for emergencies and I don't. So there's a few reasons as to why I thought, I didn't get as much as some other managers, but I got a good bonus and I was very pleased. So I didn't really stress about it. I was really eager for my wage increase, my salary increase. And I had sent a follow-up email to my executive director and copied the finance director because I wanted to remind them, because I had forgotten entirely about this during my performance review. And I wanted to tack this onto their consideration about salaries. I wanted to remind them that because of my prior CPA work, I was able to file amended tax returns because I knew how to do that in order to protect our organization from facing penalties, because the company we use for payroll filed our tax returns wrong. And I went back after our payroll company and collected a refund of a couple $1,000s. So I had not only fixed the problem, but also collected money back from our payroll company that we had paid out for their error. And that had happened last winter. And so I wanted to email that and communicate that to them, that I had this other achievement, 2 other achievements that really was above and beyond my position that I had done because of my skill set. And would they take this into consideration during their review for salaries for budget fiscal year 26? Well, that was, I think, 2 weeks ago when I sent that email, and I got a really nice email back from the executive director saying, we'll consider this when we go through the budget, and thank you for your hard work and diligence and blah, blah, blah. So I really was hoping to see about a 6% increase for myself. I've only ever gotten cost of living like roughly 3% since I've been there. So I was expecting, given the extra work I did and the accomplishments of all these things that I had related to them, I had planned or expected, that's the key word, that I would get a little bit more this year, or if not significantly more. Now, because I'm in payroll, I'm privy to certain information. And one of the things I do know is that in my organization, no one is limited with their salary increase. Now, what I don't know is why. Because in past years, I've seen people get 10%. I've seen people get 8%. I've seen people get 5%. I've seen people get 15% increases. It's very sporadic and random. I'm not privy to everybody's performance evaluations, so I don't really know, exactly how these salary increases tie to the performance evaluations. What I can say is I know that across the board as an organization, we don't give 2.5 to 3.5%. We are all over the board. It depends on the person. So I not only thought it reasonable and absolutely doable, I felt I also delivered exemplary performance deserving of 6%, if not more. And so a couple weeks go by, I sent that follow-up email to the executive director and finance director. And yesterday, which is the day before I have to process my payroll with the new pay rates, the executive director, like literally walking through the office on the fly, hands me this sheet of paper and said, oh, here's for payroll next week. And I was like, oh, thanks. And I looked at it and I saw that it was fiscal 26 salaries. And I was like, confidential, don't want to be standing out in the lobby with this document. I didn't get a chance to look at it right away. I went back to my desk, looked at it, and I got 3%. And my first reaction was, you've got to be shitting me.
Hey, what's this?
Not only did she not have a follow-up meeting to talk to me about why I was denied for a increase that was equal to my performance, she just handed the paper to me and basically blew me off and gave no explanation or follow-up regarding the salary that I had requested. I also had, I had forgotten to tell you that in my performance review, I specifically wrote on the form, I would like to see salary increase for fiscal 26 reflective of this performance. So it was very clear to them that I expected more than 3%. I feel like I made it clear. But then I also followed it up with that other email about, oh, I had forgotten about this in my performance review, this major achievement that I had done. Two major, the correcting the tax returns and getting a refund for our organization. So I was at first stunned and disappointed. I felt disrespected, disappointed, let down, and I also was pissed at her personally because I didn't think it was an appropriate way of handling the situation at all. She's not been there but a year and a half now. So I was like, I don't even think you understand my job, like what I do. I don't think you understand that I've processed payroll for this organization 100% accuracy, and that's unheard of. Even though I looked at this piece of paper, which was a spreadsheet basically with all the numbers, I looked at just myself first and was disappointed and knew I had given myself a positive self-talk beforehand to say, I know that this could swing either way. And so I was like, okay, that's what the decision is. Now I know what I need to do. But then I looked at some other people, and across the board, most everybody, I would say 80% of the team got 3%, like myself, including employees that do not perform. The thing that pissed me off more than anything else when I got this sheet from her is I saw what my teammate got for an increase, and he got 8%. 8%. And this guy runs his remote IT consulting business from work. He remotes in from his work computer and does his consultations while he's on the clock at work. Well, not on the clock technically, but while he's supposed to be doing the work for the I'll just leave it at that. So, and then a couple other people, including her, a couple other people got 5%, and then one person got 11%. I mean, to say that I was disappointed is putting it lightly. I fought for the last 2 hours of the day yesterday to maintain a level head and the same attitude and behavior that I had had all day. Smiling, friendly, professional, just the same persona. It was a fight to do that, a fight to maintain my emotions, because internally I was going off the rails. I described it to my girlfriend as I was like a 3-year-old child throwing a temper tantrum. I was throwing my sippy cup across the room and chucking my stuffed bear and slapping my toys and kicking the blocks on the floor and just literally crying and screaming and throwing myself around inside. I was a toddler throwing a temper tantrum on the inside. And outside at work, I was like, hey, yeah, I can get that for you. No problem. I'll get you a copy of the invoice or whatever you have for me next week. Like, it was just business as usual. So then I texted my girlfriend. Hi, Holly, by the way. Thank you very much for yesterday. I called her when I got out of work and I spewed everything to her, and I was just fit to be tied. And she talked me off the cliff and gave me some really good grounding words like, yes, you are good at what you do. We used to work together. That's how we met. And yeah, that's really hard to do, getting 100% accurate payrolls. And that's awesome that you got all of your goals that you had set for yourself done. And like, just saying, now you know, and just grounding me a lot. And I felt really good. But I knew when I hung up with her that I'd have to share it with my husband and that we'd have to have a conversation, because what does this mean? Because now I know who I work for and what kind of organization. Like when I first started there, I was really honored to work there, and I do have good benefits and stuff like that. But the way this was handled is the problem. And it's not so much the fact that I didn't get the raise. It is part of it. But it's the way in which it was handled and the fact that it doesn't seem to matter what kind of performer I am or how accurate I am. And as I was talking with my girlfriend last night about, like, I have a very hard time not performing. And that comes from my trauma, because I have had to fight to prove myself and prove that I'm not shady and up to no good or have ulterior motives or lying, or like, I have had to fight for everything I have, like, just to keep my head above ground. It's been a fight for me. I have been accused wrongly of things. I've had my integrity questioned. I've been thrown under the rug and lied about and tested and cheated from my family, from prior employers, from friends, ex-friends of mine. Like, I've been around the block a few times. And so I know that I go into any situation and deliver. I know that going into a performance review, that if I want the results that I want, like the pay increase, the bonus, or whatever, like, I've got to deliver, and I will deliver. Like, there is no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, I don't struggle with meeting what I believe the boss's expectation is of me. I don't struggle with that. I will get it done. If I say it's going to get done, it's going to get done. There has never been an employer that has tasked me with something that I have let them down on. Let's put it that way. And I'm not trying to brag here. I don't want to, again, get off on another tangent and go down a rabbit hole with other things, but I had a really rough night last night, because then after I hung up with my girlfriend, I sunk into a very subdued, kind of, not depressed, but not super happy, just kind of a subdued frame of mind. And I jumped on Instagram and then Facebook and Pinterest, and I just tried to give myself a few peppy things to cheer myself up, some memes or some gifs or whatever. I watched Reels for a little while. Those are always funny, and I can rely on those to cheer me up a lot of the times. Trying to cheer myself up, trying to remember all of the logical, rational, kind things that my friend had said to me, trying to prevent myself from falling further into the pit. And then my husband and son got home from their outing last night, my son went to take a shower and my husband sat down, and it was really quiet for like a half hour, and we were each on our devices, not talking at all. And then he asked me a question about something, and then he wanted to remind me about something that I had apparently forgotten about. I had texted him earlier in the day yesterday to say, hey, remind me later to tell you this funny story about how I warned my superiors about this impending thing that was going to be shut off on September 30th, and they didn't do anything about it, and how it's coming back to bite them now. And I had forgotten about this, that I had texted him that this had happened in the morning, because when I got that sheet from the executive director, I forgot about everything else that had happened. I got sucked right into a very emotionally charged, disappointed, depressed kind of state. So when my husband asked me and he said, remember you texted me and said that I should remind you about this thing? I was like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot. And I shared it with him. I said, in early September, I got this email from this software that said, okay, we're not supporting this thing anymore. We're shutting you off on September 30th. I said, I don't do anything with that. So I forwarded on to my comptroller and the finance director. Hey guys, this is happening. I never heard anything from them. Then I heard a second time mid-September, and I forwarded on to them again. I got a voicemail in mid-September. I forwarded on to them. I was like, I didn't hear anything from them. I didn't know how serious it was. I just forwarded the information because that's what they get paid to do, right? Well, then October 6th, I think it was, I had one of our customers call me and say, hey, I tried to make this payment online. It says your software's not working, blah, blah, blah. Come to find out, it got cut off on 10/1. And so at 5 o'clock the night before, I emailed the finance director and the comptroller, and I said, remember how I told you about this thing that was going to get cut off on September 30th? It happened. Now customers can't pay or whatever. And I never heard from them. The next morning, all I heard was I overheard them talking. Oh my gosh, we got to take care of this. We got to panicking over this thing that I had warned them about 3 different times throughout the month of September. And I thought that was funny, considering that I had at that point worked so hard and had not received notification from anybody in a position of authority above me that I was getting 8% increase or 10% increase or 12% increase. I still hadn't heard anything, and I knew I was going to be doing payroll pretty soon with the October 1st start date of all the new salaries for the new fiscal year, and I hadn't heard anything. So I was thinking, what are the chances? How ironic is it that they're scrambling now because they didn't listen to me when I said, hey guys, there's this thing coming up that we got to be aware of and, probably plan for. And I'm just sitting back going, yep. But that all happened way before I got that sheet from the executive director with all the new salaries, and then sunk into a further depression because here I was getting the cost of living. And I was like, after I've worked so hard all year, especially this last summer, and because my husband had asked me about that and I explained to him what happened, I then told him the rest of the story about getting that sheet from the executive director and how disappointed I was about the increase, and then the other people that got the increase. And he knows a couple of my coworkers, and he'd reacted like, what? But then here's a little bit more twist to the story. And I know this vlog is long enough as it is, but I just want to share this with you because I think it's important. And even though it's still fresh in my mind and I might have additional thoughts and do a follow-up video to this topic in a future vlog, I wanted to share it with you now because it's so relevant to what happened. I fell into such a state of disappointment and depression, even though I was fighting hard not to, that after about 10 minutes of relating everything to my husband, he says, I'm really sorry. And then a few minutes goes by and he's joking about how I should handle it. And I'm like, I'm not in the mood for jokes right now. And he's like, oh, sorry. And then he goes, hey, should we watch some Seinfeld? And I'm like, seriously, that's it? Like, we've talked for just a couple minutes and you just want to change the subject, drop the subject and watch Seinfeld now? And then I remembered, so I paused I did that practice. Pause before you emotionally react, because I genuinely felt like, what the flip are you doing? Changing the subject, cutting me off. We're talking about something serious right now. I'm really hurt. I'm really upset. How dare you suggest we go laugh now as a family, like me, him, and our son? But I paused. I practiced the pause, and I went, you know what? We did promise our son, when you guys first got back from your outing, that we were all going to watch Seinfeld together tonight. And so I said, you know what? That's right. We did promise him that we would watch it. So I said, sounds good. And so I was able to keep it together. But then after we watched Seinfeld for like an hour or two, it was time for bed. I was getting sleepy. I went and washed up. I said, I got to get to bed. And then I was pissed because my husband didn't follow up with me and say, hey, you doing okay? You want to talk about it a little bit more? Is there anything I can do for you? Or do anything to help me out of the state that I was in. And then I started to get pissed at him. And we were all saying goodnight and going to bed. And I basically hugged, kissed my husband, my son, said goodnight, and then just turned and walked away. Like, I was like, I can't see you guys right now. I can't talk to you right now. Good night, go to bed. And then I sat in our living room waiting. And I'm embarrassed to admit this now, but last night I fully expected and wanted my husband to come out, because I had the light on and he's always saying, oh, I knew you woke up at 4:00 in the morning because I could see the light was on in the living room. I expected him to see the light still on in the living room and come out and talk to me. And now that our son was in bed, like privately, and he never did. It got to be like, we all went to bed. I think it was went to bed around 11 p.m. I think. And I had my gym bag packed and everything. I was going to get up at 5 to go to the gym. That did not happen, because by 12:30, as I sat staring at the wall, waiting for my husband to come out and talk to me, I was growing angrier and angrier, and I spiraled down like doom and gloom. I had jumped from being upset about my pay increase to the nth degree. Like, I'm telling you, when I went from being hurt to being devastated in the course of just a few hours. And it was devastated to the nth degree, like the world was ending. And then at some point in time, I want to say it was like 2:00 in the morning, I decided that there's no way I can sleep. I actually pulled out my Lego orchids and put them together. I just needed to be doing something else that had nothing to do with, that didn't require thought or something. I didn't know in the moment what I was thinking. All I knew is that I wasn't going to sleep, so I needed to do something. But I wasn't feeling creative. I wasn't feeling talented. I was feeling very much like a loser. I was in a bad place. So as I was sitting on the floor putting my orchids together, it's like 2:30 in the morning. My mind is wandering, and I'm thinking back to how my husband let me down and how disappointed I am and how he doesn't love me and all this other stuff. And I remembered feeling that way as a child when my parents would scold me, particularly my dad. And I'm sorry, I'm starting to feel the burning symptom in my eyes and my nose that I might start crying. So I apologize in advance if I get emotional. I'm going to try not to, though. I remember being sent to my room or getting in trouble for something and going into my room and being extremely dramatic as a child, even as an older child, like 11, 12 years old, like crying about what I was feeling and trying to make it sound like I was choking or like I was dying so that I could get their attention, so that my dad would come visit me in my bedroom, rub my hand and tell me I'm a good girl, that I need to be accountable or whatever, and just love me and show me loving discipline and not just basically tell me that I'm a loser and I'm worthless. And that no matter how hard I try, I'm just not good enough. I'm sorry, I'm trying to vlog and be real with you guys, but this is now touching on something that explains why I spiraled downhill so quickly. The last night with my husband, there was nothing else to be said. He had said he was sorry that I didn't give my increase and he was shocked and everything, but it took a long time. It took me a couple hours to realize that my husband's reaction, or my husband's lack of attention and lack of not saying the right thing or whatever, was triggering for me. Just the mere act of him going to bed and leaving me by myself to wallow in my hurt and my anger and my disappointment over my job. Him leaving me or abandoning me sent me into this spiral that was triggering for me of my childhood. And I was in my head taking it out on my husband, and I forgot that I have a box. And I'm on my lunch break from work and I haven't even eaten anything yet because I wanted to get this vlog done and I knew it would be a longer vlog. Oh my gosh. That is the reason for this vlog, is because I finally finished my orchids, realized what was happening with me, and went, oh my gosh, what do I expect? What do I expect my husband to do? Like, sit up and hold my hand? And yeah, maybe I guess I did. I expected him to wipe my tears over being hurt. Something my dad never did for me. Because he just didn't care. Oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever cried this hard. It's obviously hitting a chord with me. I try to be as real as I possibly can on this channel, guys. Whew. So I don't want to edit any of this out, but holy crap, I was not expecting that reaction. I didn't even cry last night when I realized that that's what was happening with me, that my husband was triggering me, and he didn't even know it. How would he know? Like, I think it's a learning opportunity for us as a couple to talk about, and see, this is the benefit of healing, because even though it took me a long time to get there, I finally did realize what was going on with me, because I'm not kidding you when I say I was going to lash out at him. All because of this raise, all because I got denied for my raise, all because of my childhood and feeling unloved after I worked so hard. And I worked so hard and tried to perform because I wanted to prove my worth. And I don't even know, because I negotiated a higher wage for this position than was advertised when I was hired. Maybe I'm capped. I don't even know. There's probably a perfectly logical financial reason for why I didn't get the increase that I expected. Like, and yes, I could talk to the boss, but what's the point? Because it's like, wow, if I worked this hard and told them, already that I expected a good increase because of my performance and I didn't get it, then what am I working so hard for? And in the back of my mind, it is very hard, because it's resonating in me. It is very hard for me to not excel at everything I do and to prove myself. It's very hard for me to do just enough of a job to not get fired. That's very hard for me. But at the same time, the writing's on the wall. Like, now I know that I don't really need to go above and beyond, because no matter what I do, obviously, I'm not going to get more than 3%. So I'm kind of in a way excited because I feel like moving forward, I don't have to be as stressed, which is kind of a twisted thing to think about, but I just don't care about deadlines anymore. I don't care about the accuracy of my work. I just don't care. Like, I shouldn't say that because I do genuinely care, but what I'm saying is I shouldn't care, and how much stress it takes off, how much stress is taken off me as a result of realizing that they don't care about how good of a job I do. As disappointing and as hurtful and as rejected as I feel, it's relieving. It brings a lot of peace too. I'm so sorry to cut this off, guys, but I really do have to get back to work. As you know, look at the clock. I mean, this vlog is long, and I'm sorry about that. Hopefully, you guys garnered some wisdom out of it, and I'm sorry about the tears. I try not to be a blubbering fool, but I touched on a nerve. I knew going into this vlog what the end result was, what I was going to be telling you, but I didn't think I would cry. I knew that I was going to tell you about how I got triggered. And I had no idea that it was going on for a good 2.5 hours. And this morning, my husband texted me and he said, I hope you slept really good. I love you. Hope you have a great Friday. You know, I'm sure there's a lot more lessons here for me to share with you. But one of the big ones is these hidden ways in which our trauma can show up and rear its ugly head, even in adulthood, our childhood trauma. I'm 52 years old. I'm a grown woman. And I was triggered by my husband from my dad's treatment of me as a child, and it put me in this place where I felt like I couldn't get out. And it was bad. And now when I realized it, I couldn't process any additional information, and I haven't been able to since the realization that, wow, that's what was happening and why. So I've been able to sleep, I've been able to get up, report to work, and that's about it. But beyond that, like I said, I'm going to probably do a little bit more on this topic in the future. But for the time being, I just wanted to get this vlog out to you and share it with you because it was pretty stunning to me. This vlog's about, you know, getting turned down for your raise, being disappointed in your employer, how it relates to childhood trauma, how you can bring it home to your family, your significant other, and others. I mean, it's loaded, but that's how childhood trauma is. It rears its friggin' ugly head at the most random times about the most random things. If we're not healing, we're not aware, it could be lost on us, and we could literally damage our relationships with our significant others who we have good, long-term, productive, healthy, fruitful relationships with because of our own trauma. That's how significant healing is. That's what it can do for us. It can help us get better. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll see you next time on Whole Wellness with Ann. Bye.